Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have a good show for you tonight. Madeline Martinez is here, the Cannabis Cafe, and talking about works with NORML, and we also have Jennifer Alexander here talking about felons' rights to vote and the OCTA petition campaign. Also, right over here on the stage with the guitar, as usual, is the Doc Severinsen of our show.
Good evening, folks.
Tim Pate. How you doing, Tim?
Hey, Paul. How are you?
Very well, very well. We'll be back in just a moment. We have a hemp news segment for you as usual, a film clip, and we'll bring it all back to you in just a moment after we bring on our infamous Dancing Cannabis Leaves.
I feel the force.
All right, we have several hemp news stories for you tonight. First and foremost, here in Oregon, we have had a big hearing on our medical marijuana bill yesterday, House Bill 3664. Both of our guests will be talking about that. We have a news story out of the Register Guard to read here in just a moment. But first, we'll start with the United States Supreme Court out of Washington, D.C. According to a new United States Supreme Court ruling, police may enter a residence without a warrant if they suspect that illicit substances are present and that those inside are making efforts to dispose of them. The United States Supreme Court ruled this week in a bizarre 8-1 decision. Only Justice Ginsburg was the only one who voted against this incredible incursion to our rights to be the king of our own castle and to our private domain. It's the first time since the Magna Carta back in the 13th century that these rights are being traversed in our ruling. Anyway, the United States Supreme Court ruling reverses a determination by the Kentucky Supreme Court that found the warrantless entry violated protections granted by the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. The court determined that the smell of marijuana emanating from outside the residence, combined with law enforcement's testimony that they could hear sounds coming from inside the home that they believed to be indicative of destruction of evidence, were exigent circumstances, thus making legal requirement of a search warrant unnecessary. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg dissented in the case. The case is Kentucky versus King. Out of Helena, Montana, legislation amending Montana's 6-year-old voter-approved medical marijuana program became law on Saturday without the signature of Democratic Governor of Montana, Brian Schweitzer. Montana's Senate Bill 423 intends to reduce the total number of state-qualified medical cannabis patients from an estimated 30,000 to fewer than 2,000. Senate Bill 423 requires that advising physicians be reported to the State Board of Examiners if they recommend cannabis to more than 25 patients per year. The measure also enacts stricter qualifying requirements for chronic pain patients and prohibits licensed caregivers from receiving any financial compensation for providing cannabis to qualified persons. Most of the provisions of Senate Bill 623 will become effective on July 1st. A summary of Montana's Senate Bill 423 provisions are available online at montananormal.org. The full text of the law is there available as well. Several plaintiffs are challenging the legality of several provisions of Senate Bill 423. On Friday, a state district judge in Helena temporarily ordered the state not to enforce Senate Bill 423's ban on all advertising of medical marijuana products. Several folks in Montana are working to gather referendum signatures to stop that law from going into effect. out of Barcelona, Spain. The use of cannabis is associated with beneficial effects on various symptoms of fibromyalgia, including the relief of pain and muscle stiffness, according to the results of an observational case-controlled study published online in the journal Public Library of Science, or PLOS. 1. Fibromyalgia is a chronic pain syndrome associated with musculoskeletal pain and fatigue. Symptoms of fibromyalgia are poorly controlled by conventional medicines. Investigators at the Institut de Recerca Hospital del Mar in Barcelona, Spain, assessed the associated benefits of cannabis in patients with fibromyalgia compared with fibromyalgia patients who did not use the substance. 28 users and non-users participated in the study. The authors reported, quote, patients used cannabis not only to alleviate pain, but for almost all associated symptoms of fibromyalgia, and no one reported worsening of the symptoms following cannabis use. Significant relief of pain, stiffness, relaxation, somnolence, and a perception of well-being evaluated by a visual analog scale before and 2 hours after cannabis self-administration was observed, end quote. Cannabis users in the study also reported higher overall mental health summary scores than did non-users. The investigators concluded, quote, the present results, together with previous evidence, seems to confirm the beneficial effects of cannabinoids on fibromyalgia symptoms. Further studies regarding the efficacy of cannabinoids in fibromyalgia, as well as cannabinoid and stress response symptoms involved in their pathophysiology, are warranted, end quote. The full text of the study, cannabis use in patients with fibromyalgia, the effect on symptoms, relief, and health-related quality of life, is available online at nih.gov, the National Institute of Health.gov. Then we'll excerpt a little bit from a story out of the Register Guard about the hearing that took place yesterday on medical marijuana in Salem in Senate Bill 3663. Medical marijuana advocates turned out in force in the Capitol on Thursday to take part in a sometimes rowdy public hearing on the bill that would make a number of changes to Oregon's medical marijuana bill. House Bill 3664 was drawn up in recent weeks by a group of bipartisan lawmakers, including 3 former law enforcement officers, after approximately 20 other bills aiming to restrict medical marijuana in Oregon in different ways failed to get anywhere this session. Republican Representative Andy Olson of Albany, the bill's chief sponsor, said House Bill 3664 represents an amalgamation of the earlier bills and has 2 primary purposes. Protecting patients who generally need medical marijuana for physical ailments while creating boundaries to prevent abuses of the program. Seems disingenuous on the part of Representative Olson, but he testified, do we have a problem with this issue? Indeed we do, end quote. The multi-layered bill would make several modifications, including stiffening the requirement for when a doctor can recommend medical marijuana to a patient. Doctors would have to certify that medical marijuana will provide therapeutic value and mitigate medical symptoms for a patient, as opposed to current statutes that specified only that it might do so. It would also provide Oregon State Police with addresses of every registered medical marijuana grow site in Oregon on a rolling 3-month basis, whether or not they're investigating a crime. Would require medical marijuana users under the age of 18 to renew their card every 6 months by a doctor who specializes in treating children. Reduce the number of card holders for whom a grower can legally provide marijuana from the current limit of 4 to 2, and it will restrict the eligibility to only Oregon residents and require a national criminal background check. At Thursday's public hearing, several Oregon police officers and district attorneys outlined some of the program abuses that they held the bill had been causing. Robert Wolf of the Oregon Marijuana Policy Initiative, a coalition of pro-medical marijuana interest groups, said proponents of the bill are losing sight of the real problem. He said, quote, there are no legitimate study reports or surveys to back up these anecdotal and antidotes of medical marijuana abuse. I think what these officers are describing are problems with the black market, and this bill doesn't address the black market problem whatsoever. So we'll be talking about that just a little bit more, but we do know that there is some opposition to the bill. While Olson has garnered bipartisan support in the House for the bill and characterized the changes it makes as pretty minor, some other legislators vehemently disagree with this, Senator Floyd Przansky, a Democrat of Eugene, said that while he supports some concepts in the bill, such as restricting eligibility to the medical marijuana program to Oregon residents and including out-of-state crimes in the background check, he's very concerned the section that would constrain doctors and make more card holders and growers' personal information available to law enforcement. Senator Przansky said, quote, "If it comes to the Senate as is, I'll have a problem because it undercuts the will of the voters of our state. There's no evidence that Oregonians are clamoring for major changes to our medical marijuana law, and that's what this bill would do," end quote. This is an article written by Saul Hubbard of the Eugene Register-Guard today, Friday, May 20th. We're going to jump over, and Mr. Tim Pate is going to play some music. How are you doing, Tim?
I'm good. I'm good. You know, I have that first story with the Supreme Court voting 8-1 that whenever the cops think that you're destroying evidence, they can bust in. Well, you know, if I have marijuana in my hands, I promise you that if I'm behind a locked door, I'm going to be destroying it as fast as I can.
Well, you know, I've often said that, you know, if they have a problem with illegal marijuana, just let us know. We'll come and through human incineration, we will destroy that marijuana and make sure it doesn't get into the hands of children.
That's correct. I'd be happy to assist in that program.
Yeah.
I would. That's so disturbing. It really is disturbing. It's just a natural conduct of somebody who has marijuana in their house. They're going to be smoking it, you know, continually. That means Indiana, they're destroying it as they do it go along.
One sheriff announced the next day that a sheriff in Newton County, Indiana, announced the very next day that they could conduct now house-to-house warrantless searches for any crime. And if they caught a few criminals, the citizens would approve of that. So because of this incursion onto our Fourth Amendment rights to be free from unreasonable search and seizure, already one sheriff is saying he can do random house-to-house searches without any evidence whatsoever.
I hear the black boots on the pavement already.
It's pretty frightening.
I really do.
You know, if we don't expand a natural individual's rights in the face of these kinds of incursions, with the rapid expansion we're seeing in biotechnology and nanotechnology and artificial intelligence, I really believe that the horrible possibilities for a totalitarian state rise up very ominously. So we need to legalize marijuana. I look at marijuana as a bellwether issue, an issue that's a key indicator of the future of freedom in the United States and the world.
It's scary. It's true, Paul.
I think so.
I have to agree. I guess that's why we're on this show together.
Yeah.
Because we agree on that point for real. Something has to change. Go.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Okay, we are taking your phone calls tonight. Just give us a call at 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. We'll be taking your phone calls for the next 45 minutes. So welcome to the show again, Madeline.
Thank you so
It's good
much,
to have you
Paul.
back on.
Jim?
Yep. And then you too, Jennifer.
Good to have you with us.
We'll start with you, Madeline. So things are going pretty well. I know you were at the hearing yesterday for
I was at
Senate
the
Bill
hearing
36,
yesterday, and
63.
yes, and it was amazing because law enforcement was just there every time they talked about plants. The amounts just grew and grew. It was amazing. We were all just stunned to hear their
Yeah, I
stories.
heard every
changes they
grower
went on.
gets at least 2 pounds of plant.
At least.
At least 2 pounds
At
of plant,
least
according
2
to the police,
pounds.
and as much as 15 pounds.
As much as
And
15 pounds.
I've heard a 15-pound plant harvest, but personally, at this point, I haven't harvested anything more than like an 8-pound plant.
Yeah,
But,
that's pretty much
that's
what's
my
going
record,
on. Yeah,
you know,
most patients
but
say 4 to 6.
Indoors, you know, at best, a pound at times, and maybe most people can't do that.
No, they didn't
Most
have
people,
anything
it's
to back
several
up those
ounces.
numbers, did
Well,
they?
they never do.
Of
You know,
course.
I've been asking them since 2002 to show me some numbers, some actual
Yeah,
violations,
exactly.
some evidence of this. And I said, you know, just redact their personal information and just show me how many of them. That last time we went, gosh, I want to think it's 2009 to the legislature, and they came up with, it was 388 or 33.8, a Stormy Ray bill, another one. And that was really tragic because all they had was 31 cases. As a matter of fact, Russ Balville and I sat there and chuckled in the hearing and left there, and they were saying that this program was out of control. And I said, you know, if this were any other program besides the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program, it would be a wonderful success. So we called it the gold standard, and he did a beautiful, what is it called, PowerPoint presentation. And, I mean, really nicely done. And I understand Jennifer did a lovely one as well. Jennifer, am I right? At the hearing, Russ put it together as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the statistic guy. He does some great graphics.
He does very well in translating those numbers into hard, I mean, you know,
Yeah, hard
to-
stats that you can actually
yeah,
understand. a
visualize
layperson.
those numbers in pie charts and bar graphs.
But by far, our side really picked it up a notch, and all the testimony was great. Lee Berger, who won the concealed weapons.
Just that day, yeah. That,
yes,
we didn't
just
mention that in
that
the
day,
news, but there was a
exactly.
ruling in the Supreme Court yesterday morning that medical marijuana patients can receive handgun licenses, concealed
Concealed
handgun
weapons.
We've talked
Yeah,
about that
concealed
on the
weapons.
show many times. So it's glad
Yeah,
to see
we've
Right,
had
so
many
yeah,
calls.
we won, and I
Yeah.
felt like we won at the legislature as well.
And that was unanimous in the Oregon Supreme
Right.
And I
Court.
heard that the sheriff was not going to appeal that decision. So
Yeah.
Yes, that
that's
is
it.
exactly what
Good.
I read as well.
Yeah, well, good. Well, maybe the other one will get the clue.
The other one's thinking.
We have a caller.
Oh,
Let's go
really?
ahead and take a caller here. It's been
Are you
standing
sure
by.
he's
Welcome to the show,
thinking?
caller.
Hello, hi, good evening.
Good evening. How are you tonight?
I'm surprised at the feds, you know, in their 5-year statute thing that they had, like with the fries.
Yeah.
I
How they
mean,
took
how-
the
how can
3 years
that
of
be
harvest for the
enforced?
fries and said that it totaled 106 plants, and therefore they could be subjected to a 5-year mandatory minimum for having over 5 plants. You know, they were only busted with 34 plants. They took pictures from previous years and added it all together. That's
But I mean,
frightening.
like,
Yeah,
how,
it is.
if they want to, you know, do something like that, I mean, how can something like that be enforced? You know, they would
Federal
have to
government
prove that
has
the
a way,
plants
don't
that they take photos of are not the same ones that they took photos of previously.
Yeah.
Well,
you know,
it just shows they're willing to break the law to intimidate us.
And you know, that's really interesting, Paul, because the letter that I wrote, my testimony, revolved around the fact that you had got District Washington
Yeah, we
Supreme
got
Court
the subpoena from the grand jury for
Quashed.
the Eastern District of Washington.
quashed. And I used that because the ruling said that if Oregon proceeded with those, allowing them to take those
Those
charts,
records, right.
that it would be breaking its
patients'
own law.
privacy.
No, breaking
Yeah.
its own state law. So I said, and if you move forward with 3664, you again will be violating the state's own law by allowing law enforcement to have the addresses of all our grow sites.
Yeah.
I think it's outrageous. I think that's one of the most egregious. But the fact that they would ask physicians
too.
to say will instead of may
Yeah.
help mitigate the symptoms
No
of your condition.
physician's going to say that about any drug.
It literally
there's
would
no drug that's
end our
guaranteed to
program.
work for everyone. So
Yeah, I think it would end our program because no physician could say that.
Right,
And then we now have 6 plants and 18 cuttings under 12 inches, and they only want us to have 2 plants per patient. That's ridiculous.
yeah,
You know?
I
that
really
is.
didn't like the fact that they wanted to change the requirements for somebody who was under 18 too. I felt that it was onerous. I felt like it put too much emphasis on a thought that perhaps these, because they're underage, they're illegal when they're probably the sickest of the bunch.
Well,
You know,
many
and
of
there's
them-
only 50 of them to boot. You know, that's what I hear according to the records of the state. So it's like, why are you doing that? What's your thought processes there?
Yeah, it's really discouraging to see this, you know, and that's why I keep telling people, medical marijuana, it's a beautiful thing, but we've got to move past it because we just keep digging this hole deeper and deeper. It's like a rabbit hole, and you just never have an end to it. What are they going to require next? How are they going to threaten us? We've been doing this for 12 years, and each session we go and we're under attack. Each session, if it's not, and now we've got Democrats. Hunt was sitting up there just as cool as could be, just smirking, saying, So I want to encourage all of you out there to please put your joint down, step away from your bong just for a little while, and get involved at the legislature. Call them and tell them this is not acceptable.
Right.
For your state representatives, whether they be, especially in the House of Representatives, because this bill is in the House of Representatives right now, please call those folks and call the Oregon State Senate folks. If you're an Oregon resident and you're watching this, please call your state legislators and tell them you oppose House Bill 3664, 3664, to restrict medical marijuana and put new restrictions on medical marijuana patients.
One of the things that's also disturbing, Paul, is that in this economic environment we live in where everyone's strapped for money, they're going to increase the fees for the card holders for background checks, which is outrageous.
I really think
if
so,
you want to
too.
do a background check on me, you better be hiring me for a
Well,
job.
they're already charging $100 for most people, and then for low-income people, $20.
Right.
Then there's a huge surplus from that. So it seems that if they want to do a background check, they should take it from those funds.
That's exactly
But
right.
they already do a background check that doesn't cost them anything because it's state computer.
And then, but the police to have our addresses, I think, is just a horrible violation of our privacy,
Yeah.
our personal privacy.
Well, I think it goes against the first pretext of the law that we passed.
Exactly.
You know, that was supposed to be confidential list and remain confidential and remain in the hands of the health department, and that was that.
Yes.
And
Well,
that,
they're
I mean,
quite-
and if they wanted to find out, they had to call and ask, is this a specific address on your registry, so that we don't go there and
Right.
bust them because they're registered. That was supposed to be the procedure.
So I
Anything
know,
other than
Jennifer,
that, I'm
you were
disturbed
able
by
to
that.
produce a lot of information about how some counties were misusing that.
Yeah, with that data, it was from Christine McGarvin and Russell Gold and a number of other people that were
Mm-hmm.
working on that data a while
And then
back.
Russ took some of that and
when we
condensed it
got
into
it
pie
all,
charts
we
and
put it
graphs.
into really nice pie
And
charts.
so, what is it? Marion County in particular is
Probably has the highest rate of inquiries total. There was
Yeah.
a number of different counties that had. We compared it to the number of patients, we compared it to the number of drug crimes, and we compared those two together. So there was different ways of looking at the data, and it depends upon which way you were looking at it. But Marion County definitely stood out as one of the highest inquiry rates.
Well, it being the
That's right. We just wanna
seat
know
of
who's
state
doing
government,
what.
there are a lot of state workers there, and most of the state's prisons are located there in Marion County. So there's a huge number of state workers there, and I've always found it's the worst county to petition in, petitioning all over the state for legalization of marijuana. Petitioning in Salem is harder than any place else in this state. But you've been petitioning for the Oregon Cannabis Tax Act, which is our petition to completely legalize the sale of marijuana, allow patients to grow or all people, not just patients, but allow anyone over the age of 21 to grow their own marijuana or even sell seeds and starts of marijuana. Would also raise probably at least $140 million a year for the state coffers and save over $60 million a year in waste costs. Madeline and I were chief petitioners during the last petition drive, and we run into a lot of people who think they can't vote because they have a felony.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's really bothered me, and thank you for letting me come talk about this. When I'm petitioning, I get out on the streets and people tell me that they're not allowed to vote. They can't sign the petition because they were told they're not allowed to vote. And that surprised me. And I say, well, why can't you vote? And they say, well, I'm a felon. And so I went and did some research, and felons can vote in Oregon. That's a huge point that I try to get across to everybody. Oregon law says unless you're currently incarcerated, you can vote. But then it goes a step further that in a number of states throughout the country, there's different disenfranchisement laws. So in the case of Oregon, if you're currently incarcerated, you can't vote, which means while you're in jail, they don't mail your ballot there. There are a couple of states that do, so that's not completely unheard of. And then there's a few states, Washington, I think California as well, that don't allow the people that are on probation or parole to vote. So that's another huge population.
Once they're off probation and parole, then they can. Their franchisement, they can vote again.
That's not the case here, though, and that's what a lot of people think. They say that their probation officer, their parole officer told them that they can't vote, that they've lost that right. And some of them think until
as long
they're
as
done,
you're not locked up in jail,
right,
you can vote.
And so I wanted to share a couple of statistics really quick, if you don't mind. I don't.
Sure.
That of the United States, there are 2% of the total population, about 5.3 million people that are disenfranchised, that legally are not allowed to vote. 13% of all black men. So that's a huge racial thing, which has come up quite a bit with the new Jim Crow book and things like that. In Oregon, there is over 20,000 people currently incarcerated in our prison and jail system. So those people are disenfranchised. They are not allowed to vote. But there's another roughly 63,000 people that are either on parole or probation in Oregon, and they can vote. And then I don't have an immediate statistics. I was getting all of these from sentencingproject.org. But there's however many people that have left the prison parole probation system that believe that because they have that conviction in their past that they can't vote.
Well, you know, I, as a marijuana felon myself in the past, voted and was active politically while on probation and parole, and I know many people, including Representative Ben Westland, who's passed away now, but he was a state representative. He'd spent time in prison for cocaine possession back in the 70s, and he was even a valid gubernatorial candidate in the Republican Party a few years back as well. So we definitely have the right to vote, whether you have a felony on your record, and run for office too.
And on that note, I found it kind of humorous when I was at the hearing for HB 2982, which was the one a while back where they were trying to prevent people convicted of controlled substance felonies from being on the OMMP program. And one of the representatives actually stated that we don't allow felons to vote, therefore we shouldn't allow them to have Oregon medical marijuana. And I wanted to jump up and be like, yes, we do.
Yeah.
It kind of humored me that they didn't
even
know
to
that.
the lawmakers themselves.
Yes.
And you know, they're just people like us. They don't really know what's going on. I had to remind them that I worked in a prison. I'm a retired peace officer. And in prison, you are not allowed. No one is ever refused pain medicine. So how in the heck can they go ahead and refuse it to disabled people, veterans? It's ridiculous.
You're
Absolutely.
also active with law enforcement against prohibition, or
Yes,
LEAP
I
as
am.
well.
I'm a LEAP speaker.
And on the board of National Normal.
I am on the board of National Normal, the first Latina, by the way.
That's great.
Yeah, and I'm just going to get a new colleague on there. I don't know if anybody knows who Greta Gaines is.
No.
Greta Gaines is the first female snowboarder.
Oh,
and
okay.
Now she's a country singer. Jennifer, you met her probably at the last conference, the Normal conference that was here. And Greta is now a member of the board of directors of Normal. So I'm really excited. We're going to go finalize the vote in July in Chicago.
We have a telephone call that's been standing by. Let's go ahead and take that caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
Yes, I wanted to let you know that both the Portland Police and the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office are recently telling people that, number one, you cannot transport medical marijuana in your car at all. They're also saying that hashish, because it's a manufactured product, is illegal, and they seize it and don't want to give it back.
You know, I bet that officer smoked that hash. That would be my guess.
I've been to a recent court hearing that the hashish will be returned.
Oh,
and
good.
I just wanted you to comment on that.
Excellent.
Well, thank you. Thanks for fighting that. Yeah, you never know. You know, if an officer is telling you something, you don't really have the right to disagree. You have to accept what he says
Fight
and
it in
then
court.
adjudicate it later.
true.
Yep.
You know, you really don't have that right to
street's not the
disagree
place
with
to
their
take that fight.
interpretation.
Yeah.
Right. One of the
Right.
things that we're telling our patients to do at the
You
Cannabis
can
Cafe
inform them they're wrong.
is to, instead of calling it hashish or hash, to call it condensed medicine.
Yeah.
And that's the term you use, because then they can't say condensed medicine is not legal because it's a mixture or byproduct thereof,
Yeah.
preparation of it.
Right.
And so there we go. Condensed medicine, folks.
But in our law, it says any preparation.
The thing
Does it
is
not?
that as far as the law enforcement is concerned, they believe that hash is some sort of chemical formulation that you've
Right.
you've synthesized, like we do with pharmaceuticals.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not. It's an extraction. It comes directly from the plant. It is a preparation, and
Right.
I'm glad that guy defended it because that's a valid one.
We've
Yes.
got a preparation right here from Eli Lilly we'll be talking about in just a moment. But first, we have a film clip, and we're going to roll that, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Right on.
Take more questions, calls, and talk amongst ourselves. So stay tuned.
Don't
All right. Well, that was from this
There you go.
year's Marijuana March, Global Marijuana March. It was in over 300 cities, and that's the one in Portland that you've been organizing.
That's the one in
I was
Portland,
supposed to be
Oregon.
there. I had something else come up, so I missed it at the last minute, but I know other people were representing our cause very well.
Right. We had Don from Sensible Washington.
Yeah, he was on our
did
show
a
the night
great
before.
job. Right, he did a great job, and he filled in there, and everybody got to speak a little bit. But we actually headed back to the cafe, the Cannabis Cafe. Everybody went back down there.
And then last week, after we went over with Gatewood Galbraith, that was there, and
that was great.
Your meeting was really
We
great.
just had a big feature in, the Associated Press came and covered our karaoke
I read
night.
that.
Did you see that?
Nigel Dwara's article.
It was really
talk to him about that.
There was
this
a
week.
couple of things I had to call Nigel about because he said it was easy to get a medical marijuana card for pain. I said, well, I don't know about easy because I had to struggle through 6 physicians at Kaiser, so I wouldn't call it easy.
Right.
Well, they think it's just a game,
We have a
We'll
caller.
educate them. It's a process.
It is.
We have a caller standing by. Welcome to the show, caller.
Oop.
Howdy.
Yep, you're on.
Hey, my name is Josh, and
Hey, Josh.
I'm from Montana. I'm currently a caregiver up here.
Wow,
and
scary things going on up there.
oh yeah. Well,
We read a story
given-
about Montana up at the top of the story, how that Governor Schweitzer just allowed that to become law without his signature. He didn't
Shame.
sign it. And so what's going on? Are they going to try to get enough signatures to stop that from going into effect with the referendum process?
Well, that's the plan. The reason why I'm calling actually is given, say they do pass this and we do, we're not able to do what we do. I've got family in Oregon. I'm from Oregon originally, and I might have to, this is what I do for a living, and very passionate about what I do and about helping people, and, I would like to continue to do it, and if I can't do it here legally, I'm going to have to probably move back there, and I was just wondering, your guys' thoughts, if that would be a good idea, or...
Well, under Oregon's law, you cannot legally be compensated for your time, but your expenses. And so
So it puts a
it makes
major
it more
limit on
difficult.
you.
Now, there are still dispensaries that are opening up, and some clubs like the world-famous Cannabis Cafe that Madeline's now the proprietor of, they don't sell cannabis, but they do have a farmer's market you're associated with, right? And so, but you have to bring your own or smoke it. How does that work?
The cafe works on donations. People bring donations to us, and we give it out. We just got a huge donation before I left. Somebody came and just brought a large quantity, probably about a quarter pound, and that's how it happens. And we ring the bell, and we give it out. We roll joints up. We fill bongs, and we fill all the medical delivery devices. So we get to enjoy it, and we vaporize it for everyone. And that's always fun.
It's kind of problematic. There are some people who are doing it. There are probably at least 25 dispensaries across the state. Maybe that's an underestimate. I think it's conservative. But and more opening up the other day. The other day I was on Hawthorne, and I noticed just off of about 47th and Hawthorne, there's a new store just kind of hidden behind a Thai restaurant there.
And
So they're popping up all over. It's possible
Well,
for you to do it.
And the law says that you're not allowed to get compensated for your time, but, what it costs to create, the cannabis plant for the patient. So, to have a dispensary to dispense that out, but then again, you're only allowed 4 patients. Here, we are only allowed to sell to our patients. I don't know if you're allowed to, if a caregiver can sell to another patient, that isn't theirs.
I think that patients are allowed to compensate any grower for their expenses in producing medicine. I think
the law
that's the
says
interpretation.
the grower. The grower.
So does that mean card specific, you think?
Well, I don't think it does. I wouldn't say it does. And I've been trying to get the department, well, when it was the Department of Human Services, Oregon Medical Marijuana Program, what is it now? Oregon Health, what is it, Authority?
DHS.
Authority? Is it Authority?
Oregon Health Authority.
Oregon
Okay.
Health Authority. And quite frankly,
Yeah,
it makes
that's
more
all.
sense for any grower to be able to take care of any patient.
Yeah.
And that's how we see it. We think it makes sense for you to do that.
Yeah, obviously you have a duty to take care of your own patient
Yes.
that you're the caregiver of
And it
first. But if
belongs
you have
to the
surplus,
patient.
than
In
Right.
this state, it does.
the
It belongs
patient.
to the patient. Good point.
Let me ask you a question. Are you watching us on the internet?
Yes, I'm watching you on the internet. You're a bit delayed, but I am watching you on the internet.
Right on.
All right. Well, thanks for watching.
All right, I appreciate you guys' time.
All right.
Yeah,
Thanks
and-
for your call as well.
Keep us informed of what's going on up there, because you're right in the middle of it.
All right, yes, absolutely.
Good luck.
All right, bye.
But that's the gray area, because the medicine
I agree.
belongs to
It
the
is.
patient, and so the patient has to be the one who is also the grower of their own medicine. So they have, actually, Jennifer's one of the people who pointed that out. If you have the grower patient, then you're good.
Yeah, basically, I wasn't sure if a grower, given that they don't own the medicine, could be reimbursed by another patient without the patient's authorization. So the only way that that's feasibly possible under our current law is if the patient and the grower are one and the same person.
Now,
And I don't
was
know if the
just-
law would uphold that, but that's the thought.
I was just informed by our control room that we had technical difficulties on the Comcast cable delivery system. So the main control room here at Portland Community Media says that we're going to rebroadcast the audio, the full show at 5 p.m. on Monday on Channel 11. So we've got a one-time showing of Cannabis Common Sense. If you didn't get to see that video very well, it'll be rebroadcast this coming Monday at 5 p.m. on Portland and the Cable Access Network's Channel 11. And we have another phone call. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi.
Hey.
Howdy.
My question is, it took me several years to actually get my marijuana or get on the program and stuff. I've been a grower for a couple years before that, and with this petition coming up, doesn't that? I mean, I've read it and stuff, but doesn't that just turn us back into dirty pot smokers hiding in the corners? And,
No, you mean the Octa petition?
Yeah.
No, it would allow anybody to grow their own. So, and it would legalize the sale of it. So no longer could you be subjected to urinalysis testing for random possession. You want to say
I
something?
think the aspect that he's talking about, I actually come across this on the streets a lot, is that some people are concerned that the Octa might impact the medical benefits of marijuana, that we'll lose sight of that. And I think one of the things that I like to point out is that the Octa preserves the Oregon Medical Marijuana
It does not
Act.
change the Oregon Medical Marijuana Act. There are two laws that remain intact. One is driving under the influence. The other one is the Oregon Medical Marijuana Act. So that would still stand. But anyone could grow their own without a permit. And patients could obtain it at cost, untaxed, through pharmacies and state licensed dispensaries.
And then the patient aspect of it is, once we have it legal, we can be doing research and looking further into the benefits of medical marijuana and better uses, different symptoms, different strains. We can look at all of these things and use it more effectively.
It'll take it completely out of the closet and completely legalize it. We won't have dirty pot smokers anymore. We'll have hemp for fuel and hemp for fiber and for building materials and paper and textiles and clothing. We'll have
I
hemp.
agree with that part.
Yeah,
We'll be
but
dirty
anybody
because we're
will
back to
be able to
work.
grow their own, and it would legalize the sale of seeds and starts among all people. As long as you're over 21, you wouldn't need a permit to sell seeds or starts of marijuana. There wouldn't be any artificial limits on the amount of marijuana you could possess or grow, as long as you aren't selling it. If you want to sell it, just like you have to get a license to sell just about anything, you'd have to get a license to sell it commercially. But that's the only aspect of regulation. We anticipate that'll raise taxes and put it completely in the legal market. It won't be illegal anymore. We won't be dirty pot smokers anymore. It'll be marijuana safer than alcohol and tobacco, and people should quit alcohol and tobacco and negate the ill effects that those cause to your health and instead use marijuana, which has beneficial effects and even spiritual significance.
I agree with everything you said, but like I said, for the last couple of years here, if somebody smells something on me, well, I have the card, I'm justified. In a couple of years, when it passes and you can either grow it yourself or get it at the liquor store and stuff like that, somebody.
Well, it won't be in liquor stores. It'll be in cannabis-only
hopefully not.
stores.
I prefer
Just so
that,
you know.
yeah. But then if somebody smells it on you, then you can say, well,
It's legal, and you can't bother me. You can still smell of it.
Yeah.
It'll be
You
the
don't,
same thing.
you won't have to have a card to protect
Well,
you.
there's been a
You'll just be
stereo-
protected.
Whenever
and there
they
won't be.
smell it on me, they always generally smile and they go, smells good.
Yeah,
you know?
that's what I hear most of the time.
They probably want to share you to share with them. It's
Yeah.
the deal.
Yeah, they're always jealous of that.
Yep.
Anyway, have a good one.
You too.
All right. I hope that helped dispel your worries about that. And we aim to take it out of the black market altogether. You're counting the signatures. How many signatures do we have this week?
Well, I need to go get them. I haven't been there in the last couple of days because we were at Salem yesterday.
so you're busy
but
with
we were
that.
about 6,000 right now. So, and we've just hired a couple of new people that should do quite well and help get us those numbers up. And we've got a couple of really powerful volunteers that have contacted me recently to let me know how they're doing.
And we've mailed out packages to over 700 people?
Over 700 people. Plus,
Around
we've
the
set up
state?
hubs across the state in quite a few areas, and we're still looking for new hubs if there's locations throughout the state of Oregon, businesses, advocacy groups, any public location that is interested in hosting it. They would have the blank volunteer petitions, and then they would have a place for volunteers to drop off their completed petitions. And then if they wanted to negotiate, volunteer signature gathering and local events and stuff, I think that each local community is better able to identify the people in their community and the best ways to reach out to
So
that
actually, you
community.
can go online to that website right there on your screen, right there, and print the petition out on your computer and sign it and mail it in to us if you don't want to wait till you find a petition circulator or anything. We have another phone call, though. Welcome to the show, caller.
Is this me?
It's you.
It is.
Okay. HUD housing. You know what? They are forcing you to sign a piece of paper now. If you don't sign it and turn it back in time, they terminate your housing.
Okay.
And it's got the Oregon medical marijuana with a circle around it and a slash. And their slogan is, if you use it, you lose it.
Wow.
And it says OMMP.
That's not good. I had heard that there was a court ruling back, I guess 7 years ago now, that said patients could grow just for themselves. They couldn't grow for anyone else, but they could grow for themselves even if they had HUD housing. So that was a ruling in courts here, but it sounds like they're trying to impinge on that.
Well,
that's discrimination.
Regulations require only a preponderance of evidence to terminate your housing.
That's crazy. Could you hang on the line here and let our staff take your address, and we'll call you back and try to find out more about that.
You should contact the ACLU.
Yeah, the Oregon
definitely,
ACLU
because
would
that's
be a good one, too.
discrimination.
The HUD had actually just released a letter within the last
All right,
few
thanks
weeks.
for your call. Just hang on there.
That basically instituted a don't ask, don't tell policy.
Exactly.
But this comes after that, so that's very interesting.
So they said if don't ask if someone. So now they're asking again.
Yes,
now they're
exactly.
asking exactly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. I mean, they've never been okay with growing in HUD housing, but they seem to be becoming more lenient on the use of with.
They had actually ruled and threw it out of the case out with HUD housing, Janine Grant, years ago, and said no, she was legal. She jumped through all those hoops and she could have it in her residence. And that's what it clearly says in the law. Anything you have control over, which is your rental or your HUD housing.
Well, I know let's go and talk a little bit about the Cannabis Cafe. You're streaming your
right
thing live
now
on Ustream as well.
Ustream, exactly.
So you just search for Cannabis Cafe, one word.
Cannabis Cafe, karaoke or music, just live.
That'll
Tonight's
come up
live.
as well. Okay.
And the exciting part I have to tell you is last Monday we had WebMD out to see what we've got going on there, and they were just astonished when we showed them all of the edible products and what we do for patients, and they were just amazed and called me back to tell me so.
So is there any other announcements you want to make? I know
No,
you're
just
talking
tonight.
about some people privately. I don't know if you can make those announcements yet.
No, I would rather not mention those big names right now. But yeah, a lot of people are looking to come to the Cannabis Cafe to perform, especially when they're in town. So it's pretty exciting. Come on out and find out about us. We're at 322 Southeast 82nd Avenue, and that's Portland 97216. So come to the Cannabis Cafe.
So you've got a jam session that's happening on Friday night. Well,
tonight.
Okay.
The guy from New Shoes, not a group that I'm familiar with, but
I've
apparently
heard of
he's got some really great music. I know Nikki out there knows about it.
Yeah. Well, here's a little poster for that. We have a couple other little show and tell items here. So there's a poster about the world famous Cannabis Cafe. Right next to it, as some of you may have heard, I had been through a couple of ordeals here lately with the Oregon Department of Justice and took a plea bargain offer this week on a not filing taxes because my records were destroyed. But I took a misdemeanor. And one thing I told the court officers is they should take their community or continuing legal education credits through the ABA. I got to make a presentation to the American Bar Association last week, and it was a webinar this week. So they had this nifty little name tag with the slogan on it, defending liberty and pursuing justice. And I tell them, well, you know, that's what I do too, defending liberty and pursuing justice. Next door to it, right here, we'll get the camera to slide over. We have a bottle from Eli Lilly. This is Eli Lilly's preparation number 17, tincture of cannabis indica. It says that 1 cc is the equivalent of 1 dry gram of cannabis flowering tops, and that it is an antispasmodic, analgesic, sedative, and narcotic used for anxiety, hysteria, and migraines, not poisonous, though formerly regarded so. And so this 1 pint bottle contains 118 cc's, so this would be the equivalent of 118 grams of cannabis flowering tops. And since Madeline was on here tonight, I had to bring out a couple of my old trophy ribbons from the Oregon Normal Medical Cannabis Awards. We have a couple of them here that we won. These are from 2006 for best taste and best aroma. I have to crow a little bit.
Yes,
and then
of course.
last but not least, this is the first place winner for our lemon. Come on over a little farther. You can kind of see it there. There's nothing behind it. So yeah, it's a glass, pretty nifty thing, but it's the Oregon Medical Cannabis First Place Award winner for our Lemon Pledge
Well,
strain.
wait a minute, but you won first, second, and
third. We were the only ones to ever sweep all three of them, right?
The trifecta.
Yeah. Well,
Yes,
thank you.
yes.
Thank you. I think we also got 4th and 6th that year,
you
too.
did.
We got
I mean,
4th
you
and
just
6th.
swept the whole
And some
thing.
ribbons. It was pretty amazing.
you
That was a
still grow
real
that
good
strain,
outdoor
too.
crop. I grow
It was a
most
great
of those
outdoor
strains.
crop.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
a very
hoping.
good strain.
Last year we had a lot of mold. My lemon pledge though is
good.
resistant to mold. We didn't have any mold at all on that lemon
Everybody had a horrible
pledge.
year last year
Yeah.
in Portland. I've got to say, people are already calling me, should I put my plants in?
Yeah.
I
well,
said, I say do
should.
it.
Wait
Is
till
the
the
DEA
art
coming?
dries out. It's been wet this year. Oh my
Hey,
word!
I've already got mine started.
I just want
Not
to
outside
remind our viewers out there as well that if you are a loved one or looking for a doctor who can help you get a medical marijuana permit, then we have doctors all over the USA and a physician referral service. Stay here a little longer. Okay. And we can help you find a doctor. Just call our physician referral service. Here in Portland, you can call 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. If you're outside of the Portland area, call us at 1-800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. You can also get involved in our movement to make marijuana completely legal and get involved in the Oregon Cannabis Tax Act petition by calling our Portland number at 503-235-4606. Is there anything you'd like to say about the Octa petition campaign that you've been hiring petitioners? If somebody wants to give you a resume, what do they do?
Email Jen at cannabistaxact.org. And I also want to encourage anybody who thinks they might not be allowed to vote to attempt to register to vote, to look into your state laws, particularly here in Oregon. We need all our voters. And get registered to vote and get involved.
We have one more call. Let's go ahead and take that caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hey, is that me?
That's you.
It is.
Hey, guys, thanks for having the show. My question is about, I'm considering, or I'm strongly, I want to get a medical marijuana card. I want to know what the difference is going to be to my budget. Like how I'm used to, being on the black market, getting stuff that way.
Sure.
If I get a medical marijuana card.
If you grow your own, you don't have to spend anything for it. I'm able to grow mine. My indoor costs are about $70 an ounce, and my outdoor costs are less than $15 an ounce to produce it outdoors. And various people sell it at various prices. I know you're saying at the farmers markets you impose a limit, like an upper limit, and what is that upper limit?
It's a $150 donation.
So no, you can't sell
And
an
then
ounce
we
at
have-
the market
yeah,
for
they
more
have-
than
they have-
$150 an ounce.
They
That's a
have some
great
stuff
thing. I
for
want to say too.
125.
Do you have it as
You know.
low as $125 an ounce through the farmers market at the Oregon Cafe?
And no, it's not at the cafe at
Or
all.
it's the-
But I also want to remind people, if you're interested, Cannabis Cafe has a cardholder meeting as well, where you can come out and get cuttings. We give them away, as well as small donations of medicine right at the meeting as you leave. You know, we don't want you to smoke it before you leave. We want you to take it with you.
Sure.
So yeah, that's what we do. So that's every second Saturday of the month at the world famous Cannabis Cafe, and the doors open at 11 a.m. So come on out and we'll help support you.
All right. I hope that answered your question.
Well, yeah, if I could just have a quick follow-up, I
Sure.
would probably go with the caregiver route, just because I don't know what I'm doing in terms of growing. So any insight there as to how what kind of impact that's going to be? Like I say, going from,
Well, it doesn't
relying on
cost
the
a
black
caregiver
market.
anything. It costs the patient the $100 a year, unless they're on public assistance like the Oregon Health Plan or food stamps or Social Security Supplemental Security Income Program. And so if you're on those programs, it's only $20 a year. Otherwise, it's $100 a year. And so that's the cost.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for the info, and thanks again for doing the show.
Thank you. Thanks for your call. Is there anything else? We're down to just less than a couple minutes left. Anything you want to say in closing, Madeline?
Well, I want to thank you so much for having me on.
coming
And Jennifer,
back on.
thank you so much for such a great presentation. And all of you out there, please contact your representatives. Contact Dave Hunt. You can find his phone number online. It's not difficult. Go to Oregon Normal, ORNORML.org, and you can connect to your legislators there. And please contact President Obama and tell him to stop this war on Americans.
What
And
about
let's
you?
regulate.
You want to say anything?
Oh, just go to the Cannabis Tax Act website, sign up to be a volunteer. We want to see as many volunteers as possible. We want to break a record by August or September, so get involved, help us out.
I want to thank you all for watching. Get out there, get loud, and help us restore hemp. Good night.